Freedom Program. I am back with episode, I think this is 2.5 because we got cut off on episode 2. I'm still with Dave Ramirez from Stanford. We're talking about information products, and when we got cut off, I don't know where we got cut off, Dave, so could you remind me, and I'll respond to your question.
Okay. We were talking about advertising in specific publications like or websites like corrections.com. And my memory jogged, and did your ad that you mentioned in your book that you got in Prison Legal News, did that pay off? Did that work out?
So that's interesting. So this is January. We're recording this episode on January 31st. If you can see my screen, you can see Prison Legal News right here, a newspaper version, and they also have a digital version. But I started advertising in January, so the January issues come out January 15th. It just started, and I've only received 3 orders from that. Now, part of the reason for that, though, Dave, I will say, is that these people are in prison. And sometimes it may take, several weeks for them to be able to act on their orders. So they will be reaching out, I would say, and this magazine, it lives in prison for years. So people will always be able to turn to it and see my ad, and maybe they will take action and order my books. The digital version of the ad has not resulted in any orders yet, which is one of the reasons I'm looking to expand into the more appropriate mechanisms for my particular products. And my particular products, I have to go after government agencies or schools. So I need to find the place, where do corrections professionals get their news, and then what will it cost me to buy an ad in that area?
Right. Well, that makes perfect sense in terms of figuring out where corrections professionals get their news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I sell a product. So the Earning Freedom product, so if you're in prison, you can know my business model. I sell my product, the Earning Freedom Mastermind course, sells on a licensing basis. So I sell it to a state like USP Atwater, for example, United States Penitentiary in Atwater. They purchased a license for $2,500 a year. And in exchange for that $2,500 a year, what they receive is the entire digital course. That means they get DVDs with the lessons for 10 lessons. They receive some copies of a facilitator guide that looks like this. This is an actual workbook that people can use to teach. And then they also receive these types of workbooks that people can use. And they receive copies of one of these books like this. So actually, that's not the digital version of events. That is the physical version. If they wanted the digital version, that would only sell for $1,000 a year. But what those resources allow me to do is to pay for all of this technology that I'm trying to show you. The Adobe services, the ClickFunnels service, the lighting, the graphical artists that I have to do. So all of this, that's where I get my resources to create a digital product.
Now, one of the things that occurred to me, is there another competitor to Adobe that offers the same quality of software, or are they the only game in town?
I'm not going to presume to know the answer to that. I've got to believe that there would be other competitors. Adobe is certainly, the biggest, the 800-pound gorilla in the space. It's kind of like word processing. Google has a word processor, but 90% of the market uses Microsoft Word.
Right.
So I don't know the answer to that. I only know Adobe, and I use Adobe because it's got phenomenal service, and it allows me to produce really high quality, professional grade content.
Now, the landing page that you mentioned, I'm trying to get a definition of that. That is strictly an independent website that you control? Is that really what a landing page is?
Yeah, a landing page is it has a very specific purpose. Let me show you the difference. I'm going to show you the difference. That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
If I open up my website, which I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen with you in just a second as I open these. In fact, I'll share the screen now so you can see the entire process. Okay. This is my website right here. Okay. But you notice it has an awful lot of content on it. It's got so much content on it and not a lot of calls to action. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm asking you to enter your email address, but why would you do that, right? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. You can spend a lot of time looking around here. Okay, you can go to different areas of the website. It's very easy to get lost because it's so big. There's so much content. But a landing page is different. A landing page, go back to Facebook. A landing page is very specific. It's asking you to do one thing. It's only asking you to do one thing. So I know if you go here, you are going to do exactly what I asked. You're either going to give me your name and go to step 2. I can read what you're offering. I can show you the value. But it's one call to action. Ship my free copy. And I'm asking you to do that because I believe I can give you value. So he's got a lot of times. He's got a very comprehensive sales campaign that's showing the value that he's offering. And he's asking you to take action.
Okay, but that is actually a website itself.
No, this is a landing page.
Right.
And that's very different.
Is a landing page
a landing page has one call to action. One call to action.
I understand that, but is it itself a separate website?
Yes, it's a separate website, separate from something that would be, that has all types of things that you can do on it. Okay, it's a separate website. It's a standalone URL. A website is only effectively a URL address where you drive people that anybody can access it on the internet.
Okay,
but I want...
one call to action. It's a standalone URL. And who do you use to host these landing pages? Is it the same place that hosts your major website, or do you use different web hosting?
You can host it on your website, actually. It's just in a hidden area. Like my landing pages, they're actually hosted right on my website. But you just can't find that area because if you, for example, look at here. If you go to Google, if you Google me, if I Google my name, if somebody's Googling Michael Santos, you're going to see what they see. They'll see all kinds of information. I've got so many things over. It's kind of slow right now. Oops, I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to go like this. If I go to Google, I'll see can you see my screen?
No, I can't. I'm seeing the ordinary broadcast screen.
Okay, so here's my screen. If I Google Michael Santos, do you see I've got all these websites here?
Right.
You can find all kinds of stuff on there. But I can't drive traffic here because there's just way, way, way too much content, and I would never be able to measure whether somebody's buying something.
Right.
If I'm spending money on a Facebook ad like that, and I know that every time somebody clicks on it, I'm going to get charged, well, then I want to make sure that I can measure conversions. So if I spend $1,000, I know that I want to reach 50,000 people, and from those 50,000 people, I want to turn 1,000 of those people into my site, and of those 1,000 people, I want to convert 20 of them into clients. So now I know if 20 of people became clients, each one of those clients cost me, $50 to get them to buy. And then I can incorporate that into my sales strategy.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Next.
So if you want to, now you had another question I know about literary agents, how I
Yes.
literary agents. What were those questions, Dave? And let me respond to them, because I know a lot of people who visit my work are interested in publishing books or something. And let me respond to your questions.
Okay. So you've graciously given me the name of your literary agent, and I want to contact him. So is the best way to send him what they call a query letter, or is it better to send him a first chapter of your work,
Yeah.
or the entire digital manuscript, or what's the best way to do that?
So let me just try and explain that in terms of your career. Okay? You're a lawyer. And when you were
Right.
in private practice, your time was very valuable, right?
Correct.
And so when
Yep.
people wanted to talk with you, you needed to figure out, you couldn't afford to devote the time to read an entire manuscript or even an entire chapter before somebody retained you, right?
Correct.
So what you would do is you might give an initial free consultation, talk about your services, and then ask for a retainer, in which case you will start doing your work and representing them. Well, the literary agency is the same way. Those agencies, they invest a lot of money and time in developing relationships, but they have to find clients. So they can't spend time reading a manuscript before they feel confident that they can sell your manuscript. So
Uh-huh.
you've got to understand, or at least this is what I found, if I can understand how their business works, then I can do what I need to do to take the next step. And the work has to stand on its own. So what does that mean? If I were in your shoes, I would figure out this first. Why would it be in this agent's interest to represent me? I know this agent has a lot of relationships with big publishing houses, but he only has so much time. So I want to convince him that I am the one that he wants to invest his time in. Well, I would market myself as being different from most of the other authors who represent him. In your case, if I were representing you or if I was advising you, I would say, you want to say that you went to Stanford. You want to say that you went to Stanford Law. You want to say that you're Mexican American. And you want to say that you're exactly the type of person that every parent wants their child to become. Because I know that you want to create a book or a series of books for parents who want their children to learn, or schools that want at-risk kids to learn. And so you have credibility. So you need to demonstrate your credibility and why you're different. So I would say, but the agent is not going to have time to read your book. That's
Right.
just, he's not going to do that. But an agent will say, let me read a well-written query letter of your qualifications. So this is what you might want to say. You know, there are more than 100 million children in the world of Hispanic heritage that are struggling. I can teach those individuals, parents, what those children can do to become successful. Why? Because I was one of them. I grew up in this area and I became a great student, went to Stanford, graduated Stanford undergrad, Stanford Law before I built a career as a lawyer. I've created a product that does this. Does that make sense to you? If so, let me send you the first chapter. Now I've only asked him to spend 3 minutes reading a query. He's gauged an interest right away, why you're special, what you're offering, how big the market is, and yeah, I'd like to see it. So that's the first step. And then if he says, and then you say, let me send you a book proposal. Now a book proposal is going to be a little bit more comprehensive. It might be in about 20 pages, double-spaced, appropriate subtitles, such things as a little bit more elaboration on your background, a little bit more elaboration on the market, a little bit more elaboration perhaps on your marketing strategy, a little bit more elaboration maybe on what other books have done in the space, and then a sample chapter. So then the agent has an idea of the commercial aspect of this project. And then if he wants to read the manuscript, that's when you send the manuscript. And then he can then go to a publishing house and try and sell it and figure out which publishing house is the best fit for something like this. But what you probably have to do, Dave, is figure out in the beginning whether even a traditional publishing house is the best option for you. Because it depends. There are, 15 years ago, no, maybe like 20 years ago, you had to work with traditional publishing houses. But today, in light of the internet and search technology and marketing campaigns, you don't really need a publishing company. You can do it yourself and publish right to Amazon.
I agree that the second method is becoming the norm. But how would you figure out if you were going to self-publish, what would be the best avenue to market it on? I mean, the Univision website, or where would I'm trying to figure that.
Great question. So that's going to take some research, and that's why I tell you it's time. There are a lot of companies that you could hire that will do that research for you, but you could do it yourself. For example, you could go to that website called SimilarWeb that I talked about. Okay? And you could start gathering information on traffic. So I could look at univision.com. And I'll share my screen with you. And I can see that it receives 7.5 million visitors every month. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Then I can scroll down and I can see where is it getting its traffic from. And I could look at these different websites. Now, if I bought a subscription to SimilarWeb, I could even see the actual ads that people are placing to get there. And then I can look at this. If you look at the site, I can look on there and see similar sites to Spanish language sites. There's People in Espanol. There's Classmates.com. There's Terra.com. There's Spanish language. So you see there are all types of websites. And that will allow you, I can even look at them. Like this is at elnuevoherald.com. I can even look at the site just by clicking a button. There's the site. I click on the site. I see what's there. Determine whether I want to buy an ad right there. You see? That's digital marketing. I find where I think my targeted audience is going to go, but I want to drive these people to a very specific place. Because if they're going to spend money on this ad right there, they want to make sure that I'm taking action and buying or doing something. See, this ad, it's not so, there's too much stuff for me to do here. I can't tell how many people are taking action. But all of that information up there on the top, a digital marketer would be able to read all of that. So all of that information right there is giving me data. And that's what's determining whether that ad is making sense financially. So you have to use all these tools, Dave, in order to build a digital type business. Can you hear me? Oh no, I don't hear you again. Shoot. Well, that's going to be all for this episode. I'll call you on the phone, Dave, and we'll continue our conversation because somehow I'm losing you on audio when I open these other sites.